Remove the brake lever pivot bolt and the kickstarter assembly. Remove the clutch access cover and inspect the O-ring gasket. Next, remove the clutch pressure plate bolts and springs. Inspect the springs for any damage or cracks and measure free length. Remove the clutch pressure plate and inspect for any damage or abnormal wear. Watch for the lifter washer as it may be stuck to the clutch pressure plate. Next, remove and inspect the clutch lifter and lifter rod. Make sure the lifter bearing turns freely and smooth. Now you can remove the clutch plates. Check the brown fiber plates for any cracks or burning. Check the steel plates for any bluing or warping. With all the clutch plates removed, inspect the clutch basket. The wear shown will usually cause the bike to creep forward when the clutch is engaged and the bike is in gear. The fingers can be filed smooth when the basket's removed, or replace the basket. Next, drain the coolant and remove the right side engine cover. Make sure to remove all the cover bolts before trying to remove it. Remove any gasket material, keep track of any locator or water pump dowels and O-rings. Now is also time to replace any leaking kickstart seals. Using a chisel and hammer, carefully fold the tangs away from the clutch hub nut. To remove the hub nut, you'll need to stop the hub from spinning freely. You can buy a clutch hub holding tool, or you can put the transmission in gear and jam the sprocket. The sprocket jam can be made of any material softer than steel. Now you can carefully remove the clutch hub nut. The locking washer should be discarded and replaced with a new one. Now remove the clutch hub and inspect for damage. Watch that the thrust washer may be attached to the clutch hub. Now you can remove the clutch basket, washer, and collar, inspect for any kind of wear or damage. Remove and inspect the kickstart idler gear and collar. To remove the Kickstarter mechanism, first carefully remove the spring from its keeper, turn the whole mechanism to the left, and carefully remove it from the case. Disassemble and inspect the mechanism as shown. Check the kickstart ratchet teeth for wear, and check the shaft for any kind of grooves. You also want to check the spring for any kind of cracks or abnormal wear. Make sure the spring tang is located properly in its hole in the shaft. Next, put the transmission in neutral and remove the shift lever. You might want to mark the lever and shaft for easier installation. If you're going to be splitting the engine cases, it's a good time now to remove the sprocket. Now you can remove the shift shaft. Keep in mind on the end of the shift shaft arm, there's a small collar that engages with the ratchet and ball mechanism. Remove the ratchet and ball mechanism. While removing, be careful of the spring-loaded pawls that can easily come out of their position. Carefully and slowly remove the shift drum bolt. Shift drum bolt should have some red Loctite on it, which may make it difficult to remove. Now remove the shift drum detent and inspect. Reinstall the shift drum detent. Make sure the alignment pin is lined up in the detent groove. To make it easier, you can use a screwdriver to hold back the retaining arm. Use a small amount of red Loctite on the shift drum bolt and torque to 22 Newton meters. Reinstall the ratchet and ball mechanism. If it came apart on you on disassembly, reassemble as shown. Be sure to reinstall the shift arm collar. You'll need to compress the spring-loaded pawls to fit them in the shift drum detent. Ensure the shift drum stopper plate has the up markings facing upwards and outwards. Torque these fasteners to 12 Newton meters. Clean and inspect the shift shaft. If it's in good usable condition, replace the washer on it and reinstall. Be sure the return spring tangs are located properly on either side of the dowel. Also make sure the arm is located properly on the ratchet and pawl collar. Reinstall the kickstarter idler wheel and collar. Now you can replace the kickstart mechanism and relocate the spring. Now reinstall a cleaned and lubricated clutch basket, bushing, and bearing. It's a good idea to make sure you don't have more than 6 thou clearance between the drive gear and the clutch basket. If there's excess clearance, press the gear into the basket as shown. Now reinstall the clutch basket and thrust washer. The rounded lip on the inner edge of the washer will face outwards. Reinstall the hub by lining up the splines on the transmission shaft. Next, install the plane washer and lock washer. Make sure the tabs on the washer fit with the ridge on the hub. Finger tighten the hub nut and put the transmission in gear while holding the shift shaft from sliding out of its position. Install the sprocket jam and torque to 69 Newton meters. Check to make sure the clutch hub spins freely. Bend the lock washer tabs around the nut. Careful not to damage the clutch hub in the process. Reinstall the clutch discs, starting with the fibers. The steel discs will have a rounded inner edge. The rounded edge will face towards the engine. Alternate the fiber and steel discs. Next, reinstall the push rod and lifter. Be sure to install the washer on the outside of the needle bearing. Reinstall the pressure plate, springs, and bolts. Make sure the pressure plate is seated properly over the clutch hub. Use a plastic or aluminum gear jam as shown and torque these bolts to 12 Newton meters. Remove the gear jam. Reinstall the locating dowels, water joint dowel, new O-ring, and new gasket. Reinstall the right side case cover. Keep in mind you may have to turn the impeller to line up the impeller shaft. Install the case bolts in their proper position. With the bolts all loosely installed, they should protrude exactly the same amount. Torque in a crisscross pattern to 10 Newton meters. Reinstall your water pump cover with a new O-ring. Be sure to have a copper sealing washer on the drain bolt. Torque the shift lever bolt to 12 Newton meters. Reinstall the kickstart in position as shown and torque the bolt to 38 Newton meters.